Anshul, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
A pleasure to be here.
Yes, we are here in Abu Dhabi, GRI Global Summit, and I'd like to start asking you to introduce yourself and talking a bit more about your role at Cushman.
I'm a career real estate person. I've been 30 years in the industry now. With Cushman and Wakefield at the moment, I run what we call emerging high growth markets. So effectively Southeast Asia, India, Middle East and Africa. So it's a pretty diverse region. And I also specialize in another role looking after the offices and retail sector across APAC. So it's kind of a multi-dimensional role. But of course, within this portfolio, given how India has performed over the last few years, it's the jewel in the crown. So very excited that I have the fortunate to participate in that growth that India is offering and Cushman Wakefield is offering.
Am I wrong to say that India is your biggest bet in your current role, right?
Oh, absolutely not. I think, as in you're absolutely right in saying that India is our biggest bet. If you look at the high growth markets across the world, there are very few markets which can boast the level of growth that is being offered by India. At a macro level, 6.5% GDP growth for size of the economy and population we are presents plenty of opportunities. And then I think if you dive down one step deeper and get into the real estate macros, right? So whether it is the office demand, which has kind of just gone through the roof to an extent that I think there's a McKinsey report which called India office of the world. India is right now absorbing almost 60% of Asia's demand at about 90 million square foot a year. That's kind of phenomenal. Then you kind of move into the residential segment, which of course, after a lull of about 7-8 years pre-COVID, post-COVID, things in residentials kind of taken off and the demands kind of picked up very significantly. As the middle class story kind of plays out and wealth is getting created, consumption-driven sectors like retails kind of, really, and of course residential, but retails also.
They will follow, right?
They're following. And then, of course, the logistics and warehouse kind of follows, right? So, and then, of course, all the Indians are on phone, as most of the world is, consuming data all the time. So guess what? Data centers, right? So I think at this point in time, you touch a real estate sector, the economics, the sort of just macros, demographic dividends, everything is falling in the right direction. So it's a great market to be in. And great time to be in India.
Today you moderated the commercial real estate session.
Yeah.
And we had players from all over the world here. USA, from European, big representation from India.
Yeah.
Latin Americans. Any key takeaway you take from that session today?
I think what was interesting for me to note is that most players were saying that the funds are getting raised by people with very specific opportunities. So if you have the expertise to deliver growth in a particular market in the US, right, you're selling that strategy to the investors, right? So investors are looking for that. Investors are also looking to come in with you as a co-investor. So very specific opportunities, right? So it's hard for an investor to say, well, I've made you successful in US and now I'm going to go to Asia and invest. And it's hard for those people to kind of raise money. So I think that was one interesting area which kind of came up. Although I was expecting offices to get beat up significantly, to my surprise, and I'm a big believer and very bullish on offices, but to my surprise, the panel was, and there were a few colleagues on the panel from the US, they were actually talking about the return of the office sector in the US. And of course, where you can make money in the office sector and where you can't. It's still, not like you invest
in a gray area, do you think? Yeah.
But I was surprised that there was a lot more positivity around office sector than I thought would be. So I think those two themes stood out. And then third is, of course, the alternate themes, which is around data centers, the sheds, the beds, as they call it.
Yes.
So those remain, have become a lot more prominent as investment asset classes than they were 5 years ago, but that is expected.
Yeah, what we have seen and what I have been learning from the past years is, of course, as far as I know, India was the first market to recover offices post-COVID, right?
Yeah.
It's the first place that people wanted to go back to offices, and the companies want to have the people back.
Yes.
Right. And now people, the rest of the world, they are fallen, right?
Yeah. Small houses, joint families, younger population, people thrive in sort of, meeting people, being social. So I think most sectors recovered post-COVID pretty quickly for people coming back to offices, except perhaps the tech sector where, the techies would sort of maybe gone back to the native areas. Took time to return, but India is fully back. And the same trend is now playing back in most developed economies, albeit for city center offices and prime quality offices. So if as a tenant, if you're not in one of those, it's hard to bring back your people still.
Yes, I was going to ask you, do you think that the demand for AAA buildings had grown?
Oh, it's through the roof. It's through the roof. I mean, if you have a AAA quality building, you don't have to sell it anymore. It just sells. It just sells. But if you have a poor quality building, even in a great location, people don't want to come back. And if you have a poor quality building in a bad location, forget it. And that will just have to be repositioned.
Nice. I know you recently took over the role for Middle East, and we are in Abu Dhabi, and we were just talking before the interview that the progress is everywhere here. Right? We can see literally there is a man-made island being done behind us.
It's interesting.
As we talk. And what are your views for GCC? What do you think that's going to happen in the future? And what are the role that you're going to play within Cushman?
If you think about the macros, they're very positive. You've got, if you think about KSA, Kingdom Saudi Arabia, you've got the population, you've got investments kind of coming through, the government trying to sort of, modernize the country, build and change policies. So everything's kind of moving in the right direction. There will be opportunities there. If you think about UAE, there's a concerted effort to build the population in UAE. It's very friendly, welcoming foreigners from around the world with open arms, right? Legal environment, banking and regulatory environment, albeit slowly. Right? Facilitating everything, really welcoming investments with an open arm, right? So that you can be based here and you could do cross-border trading, you could do cross-border investments, or just invest in this market where the population is slowly rising, right? And which itself gives opportunity. So I think we view the key markets in Middle East being full of opportunities for us. Reminds me, of some of the other emerging markets a few years back, and how that sort of development has taken place and businesses have grown. And it certainly feels the right time and right place here in Middle East right now.
Do you think it brings the best of both worlds here, the stability that people want with the return of the investment of an emerging market?
So I would say stability, lifestyle, accessibility, connection to the world, all of that. Security, all of that's fantastic. I think the returns, of course, these are emerging markets. So one's got to be careful because it'll go through some of the cycles, right, before it kind of stabilizes. So you've got to look for the opportunities. But of course, when there are cycles, the risk appetite matches with the returns that you can make. So I do think there are plenty of opportunities, but there needs to be, people need to be circumspect because it is the nature of emerging markets is it'll go up and down. The variability will decrease over a period of time, while the direction will be towards way up. And that I think
that's great. Something interesting you said about the people and how friendly they are to bring expats here. 1 year ago, I was here, and they were saying that Abu Dhabi is the capital of the capital, which is true.
Yeah.
But yesterday, during the meeting we had at ADGM, the guy said we want to be the capital of human capital.
Interesting, yeah.
And it's something really interesting, and it very connects to what you said.
Exactly, and that's the subtle message that if you're kind of giving to the world, you'll attract the best human capital. And once the best human capital is here, there's going to be no stopping to the economy, because that's where value gets created.
Is there any specific thing that Cushman is doing to have data, to provide the reports, now with the rise of AI and now technology behind? And I know the reports from Cushman was very insightful, and the clients wait for that, right?
Yeah. So no, we've kind of completely rethought our strategy around data in the last sort of year or so. And what we've done is put a AI-enabled center in Kochi, India, which basically services the world. And effectively, we have a whole bunch of data scientists who sit there, and their work is to really look at this massive data lake, effectively, right? And try and figure out the trends ahead of time, effectively.
Sides,
Yeah,
right?
the trend, and I think, and create insights from it, right? And so once kind of that happens, and when you have an AI-driven engine which is being managed by data scientists to try and drive trends, I think you start to get a lot more insightful and a lot more precise reports, right? And so that's the massive change that we are driving.
Yes.
Within the firm, and you'll probably already start to seeing some results.
Something new.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
About Indian market, is there any trend or any specific thing you are doing differently, or that you are forecasting in a different way in India?
Yeah, so what we're seeing in India right now, the trend is that a lot of domestic capital, which till few years ago was buying pieces of real estate directly, right? So is getting institutionalized. By that, what I mean is there are local funds that are getting formed, real estate private equity funds, which are targeting domestic investors, family offices, or individual HNI investors, pulling their investment into a fund vehicle, into a formal SEBI-registered fund vehicle, and investing into commercial real estate. So these funds are now, so far, what we saw in India was basically global institutional funds entering, in Blackstone, Brookfield, GIC.
Yes.
But now we are seeing domestic funds getting formed. And by such initiatives actually by us, where we've kind of tied up with, we have a joint venture with a wealth management firm called Novama, and we've created an asset management company, which is basically pooled in fund. We've raised we are in the process of raising $500 million. To deploy into commercial office real estate. And very proud to say we bought 2 office buildings already in country. We've deployed 2
That's already, yeah.
So that's a big trend that we are seeing. And I think we'll continue to see that trend of local capital formation in India, for India, into different asset classes.